If Lumix approached me and asked for my help in designing their next camera, this is what that camera would look like. Firstly, the camera would have a 10 megapixel full frame sensor because I'd be designing something that's video centric and suits my use case the most. The current lineup of Lumix full frame cameras is already fantastic for still shooting, at least the sort of shooting that I do stills wise, so realistically I don't really have a craving for anything more on that side. And if you're mainly a photographer and disagree with this, then maybe when Lumix theoretically approach you to create their next camera, then you can make it the way that you like. The form factor I go with for this particular camera would actually take inspiration from cameras like the Panasonic EVA1 and the Sony FX6. I'd put physical buttons on the body of the camera for white balance, ISO, shutter angle and iris, and also a big beautiful red record button in typical Lumix fashion. My Lumix camera would still have the same industry-leading in-body image stabilization, and it'd also be powered by V-mount because of course that will be a lot better on longer shoot days. I'd love for my imaginary Lumix camera to also have internal NDs, but I still want this thing to theoretically cost less than £4,500. And realistically, I also want the form factors to still be quite small and manageable, so it's easier to balance on gimbals and stuff. So I'd sort of take away the internal NDs and keep the in-body image stabilization because realistically, I value a steadier handheld shot when in reality, I can just go ahead and attach an ND filter on the end of my lens. There would be a fully articulating LCD touchscreen as well on the side of this camera that flips out, and that would be great for sort of monitoring and also going through your menus and stuff if you did want to keep your rig nice and light and sort of stripped back. But of course you can also add an external monitor if you wanted to, you know, like have a bit more of an immersive viewing experience. On top of the body would be a few 1/4-20 mounting points for accessories and stuff and just general rigging. And it would also have the same sort of handle system as the Panasonic EVA1, but without the screen because of course we have that on the actual body with this imaginary camera. Since I rarely record my audio directly into my cameras and always tend to opt for external audio solutions, I'm not really too fussed when it comes to the inputs and outputs for audio, although it would be really nice to see 2 XLR ports and basically just see the integration of the DMW XLR1 into this body somehow. And while we're on the topic of ports, my Lumix camera would have a full-size HDMI, of course. It would also have an SDI out, a USB-C port that is capable of data transfer, so it can do USB-C to SSD recording, because that would be really nice. And then in terms of the actual card slots, I'll probably put a faster card slot on there, like a CF Express or something like that, and then one normal UHS-2 SD card slot as well, purely because you might need a little bit more speed when writing, you know, maybe some heavier codecs, for example. And we might as well add timecode in and out as well, since there's a lot of guys out there that would absolutely love to see that feature. So of course, everything up until this point has been all about the physical sort of specifications, and we've not even touched up on the recording side of things yet, so let's get onto that side now. My absolutely fake and unrealistic Lumix camera would shoot 6K open gate at up to 60 frames a second, and also full frame 4K at up to 120 frames a second, all with 10-bit color sampling at either 422 or 420. It would feature the same phase detect autofocus system that we've seen in the Lumix S5II and the S5IIX, and it would also be able to output RAW via HDMI and via SDI, but not simultaneously. ProRes RAW and Blackmagic RAW would both be available to shoot with this camera with the correct external monitors. And in terms of our rolling shutter performance, I'd want to see that anywhere between 10 to 15 milliseconds. And of course, this camera would have an L mount, meaning that we can use all of the great Lumix full frame lenses that are already available. So this imaginary absolute weapon of a camera I'd want to cost anywhere between £4,200 to £4,500, whatever that would be in US dollars. I'll put that here based on today's current exchange rates and stuff. So that's how much I want this camera to cost. What do you think? So the question is, would you buy this camera? Have I designed something that you could get behind? Or is this the last time that Lumix should ever pretend ask me to help them develop a camera?